Step out! Step out!
Get out of the car.
Down!
Gun!
Get your arm out!
Get your arm out.
Get your arm out now! Oh!
Drop the gun! Just Kids! Gun is holding.
You alright, kid? It's alright. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Come on. It's okay.
Little boy pulls out a gun. I look back and there's a fist lock. This gun right here. Let's take them inside.
Yes.
Situation outside of that McDonald's in Utah where police were arresting a man that had allegedly brandished a gun as he was angry at some of the employees there. And you heard that gunshot go off and police not knowing what was going on. Children in the car, who's shooting? Let's find out more.
Heads were all right there. I mean, had it been lower,
I was pulling in and I heard that and I was like, what was that? You guys good though?
Yeah, we're good. If you want to get a witness statement, take it in the witness at the drive-thru who saw the gun pulled.
Okay, that works. Was the kid aiming for you guys?
Yes, here's the window. I come walking up to look in, and all of a sudden this silver handgun comes out like this. I'm like, ooh.
Oh, you pushed it.
I pushed it as they fired. And it went over these guys' head.
So again, as you heard, apparently the 4-year-old in the backseat of that car, or maybe in the front, who knows where he was, grabbed his dad's gun. And as he was being detained, arrested, that's where the shot came from. And apparently that cop also apparently saw it at the last second and shoved the gun so that it wouldn't hit anyone and instead hit the building. There was another officer that did speak to local news about more details of how this happened and what led up to it as well. We'll get to those details later, but let's get his perspective and what he said went down.
So the driver of that vehicle was upset because the order wasn't what he ordered.
The workers tried to make it right.
At that time, we believe he brandished a firearm.
It was officers who were called to the parking lot to try to resolve the matter.
Knowing that he might be armed, they pulled him out of the vehicle as quickly as they could.
That's where the situation went sideways.
One of the officers noticed a firearm coming out the vehicle, and he was able to deflect it, but the firearm did go off and went into the awning here at the McDonald's.
And the shooter,
the person that pulled that trigger, was 4 years old.
the sheriff, just can't believe it.
Just think the gravity of that. A 4-year-old was told, we believe, by the father to pull the trigger and shoot a police officer.
Pay attention to that last part where that officer said, we believe that the 4-year-old was told by his dad to pull out that gun and shoot. Let's get the details of how this all went down. You saw this bit of an argument. There was things going on with that worker. So this Utah father was charged with 2 felonies after his 4-year-old son used the man's handgun to shoot at police outside of this McDonald's. The father's 27 years old, and he is taking his young children. One was 3 years old, and that other 4 years old to that McDonald's while his fiancee got her nails done. That's according to those documents. He received their order, but told an employee that it wasn't correct, and then he started to argue with her. The employee then told police that the father then grabbed his handgun from the passenger seat, racked it, ejecting a bullet. He then put the gun down and continued to argue, is what she said also in his court documents. But she closed the drive-thru window and called police, fearing that he may shoot her or others inside. Then the father hit the drive-thru window and picked up the gun again. Again, this is what the McDonald's employee was saying. The father, as far as his story goes, he said that he was just adjusting his gun under his lap while moving the food apparently not racking the gun and ejecting bullets and all that stuff that the employee said. And that he didn't tell his son to do anything. Again, that's his side of the story versus that officer who said she believed that he told his son to start shooting at them. He did admit though that his kid is apparently somewhat familiar and comfortable with this weapon, because the father told police that his son had taken the gun before. He said he didn't teach him bad things about the police, just told him to keep away from officers if possible. And the Salt Lake City District Attorney's Office charged the man with 1 third-degree felony count each of child abuse and aggravated assault, as well as a Class B misdemeanor count of interference with an arresting officer. So, Francesca, there's a lot here, but I want to start off with the fact that there's guns loosely bounced around inside of this car. The guy did apparently show the gun in some form or fashion to the point where the employee had to back away, close the window, run away in fear for his or her life. So you have to wonder, after this all went down and then the gun is there loosely with a child to shoot at it, where is the direction? Where is the folks that told someone else? Or maybe the kid saw this situation happening and apparently has been around guns and thinks, this is how we solve problems.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, it's just another very American story in another day in this country that is completely replete with handguns and other guns, and where the police officers are not necessarily your friends, and young children, especially in the Black community, probably are taught by experience that they don't trust the police. Most people at this point, after sort of witnessing or living their lives, don't trust the police. So there's that as like a baseline for what's going on. Far too many guns, officers we can't trust. And then, you can imagine the video that we're not seeing, right? Which is a video we've done a million times and that we've seen increasingly. People don't know how to act outside and they use their weapons to get what they want. I mean, I'm remembering earlier in New York in June, a man was murdered because he wasn't bringing enough duck sauce in his Chinese food delivery order. And so he got, I mean, it's like, this is how people are solving some of their problems here. So it's like, you're a little bit unclear on whose side to sort of really throw down on in this story. It's just sort of tragic and sad, and also like not actually all that surprising that a 4-year-old would pick up a gun and fire it. The sort of silver lining is that no one was killed, including those 4-year-olds, because we know kids with guns, as much as the right is like, we need to arm them, put them in their backpacks. No, they're gonna kill one another with them.
Yeah, because really quick also, I was actually surprised and happy that the cops didn't unload into the car saying, who shot? And just didn't look at who it was and got to shooting, and there's 2 children in the car, which is very possible to happen as well. And also you talked about kids with guns and how normal it is. I just wonder from this perspective. So all these conservatives that say, let's arm people. In fact, let's go to one of those people who say, let's arm children because that's the way of American life, and see if they still agree with that after this incident. Let's watch.
And I also feel that, if my children are in school and a madman with a gun comes to a school to kill people, unfortunately, a psychologist is not going to be able to just talk him out of it. That is not a good way to protect kids. But again, we enjoy.
Do you think the students should be armed?
I think children should be trained with firearms. I definitely do. I think that's very important so that they understand the
So they could repel someone who comes in.
Or maybe they can repel someone that they don't like. They can repel someone that's arresting their father, or they can repel a kid that's bullying them, or they can repel someone else that broke the rules in their basketball game. Whatever makes someone upset enough to just go to shooting to resolve their problems. Why don't we just teach children that same thing? But in this particular case, I'm sure people like Marjorie Taylor Greene would then come out and say, look at these thugs teaching their kids to shoot with guns. This is what's wrong with America. There's not enough parents in the house to teach their kids to shoot or not shoot. This is what ends up happening when you have this chaotic approach and scenario that they're hoping for and actually creating scenarios for is everybody's shooting. So if everybody's shooting, why not the 4-year-olds? Remember the JR-15 that we did back at the beginning of this the show's run here? At a convention, they were making smaller guns similar to AR-15s, but JR-15s is one specific company because they wanted children to be able to shoot that same style gun in their size. That's how these things work. Last thoughts on this, Francesca?
I mean, last thoughts, obviously, like you're in Utah, it's a predominantly white state. Like it just, and I can't help but notice that this family's Black. I can't imagine, like I'm so glad that they were not, of course, killed. But if you start arming kids, I mean, you're effectively calling them adults, and you're effectively allowing law enforcement to open fire on young children. And who do you think they're gonna open fire on more than others, right? I mean, the racism is gonna only continue. The last thing I'll say is cops have no idea how to treat children when they're arresting their parents. We've seen this a million times again. Kids are left crying, kids are left stranded. You have to be able to talk to the children and say, this is what's going on, stay calm, etc., and diffuse it that way.
Instead, we know what actually happens to cops. And again, if kids are armed, look, an unarmed Tamir Rice from years and years ago was immediately murdered by cops. So what do you think they're gonna do if someone else actually does have a gun? Or they walk around training and is like, no, I'm sorry, officer, my dad taught me how to shoot this. They think, okay, good, let's shoot you even quicker. Is this the scenario you guys want? Just ask yourself that question.